Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mitra Surratt. I'm the Executive Director of Parent Information Center of Delaware, and I'm joined today with Christina Horton, the Part C coordinator. And Christina, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yes, thanks, Mitra. My name is Christina Horton. Good afternoon, everyone. I am the Part C coordinator for Delaware's Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program. I'm very happy to be here.
Yes, and so today we are providing an overview of Delaware Early Intervention Services for infants and toddlers with disabilities. A few housekeeping, this webinar is being recorded. And so if you have any objection to being recorded, do need to let you know that in advance that the webinar is being recorded for later viewing. Also, you will receive a survey immediately following the webinar. Please take a few moments to complete the survey. That informs additional programs and products and services and ways that we can better support you after this webinar. So we really like to hear your feedback to know if the information was helpful, if it was useful to you, and any additional topics you would like for us to cover. So again, my name is Mitra Surratt. Welcome to the webinar. And a little bit about our organization. Parent Information Center was established in 1983. And our mission is to advance effective parent engagement and education. And our vision is for all children to fulfill their potential to succeed. And so how we serve families is in a number of ways. We provide one-on-one consultations to families. We offer learning opportunities such as the one that you're participating in today, online resources via our PIC website with links to state and community resources as well. We also include outreach and systems advocacy. And so the way that we affect systems advocacy is by ensuring that the interests of children with disabilities are considered at both the local and national levels. And so our staff participate on councils and committees across the state that represent the interests of children with disabilities and their families. And so for the purposes of today's webinar, we really want to provide an overview of Delaware's early intervention system for infants and toddlers with disabilities. Also talk about who's eligible for early intervention and your role as a parent in that process, how early intervention services can help infants and toddlers and families. And also we're going to cover some key legal requirements related to early intervention services.
So again, my name is Christina Horton, and I am the Part C coordinator for Delaware's Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program. So I'm going to get started in talking about the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and it's also known as IDEA. So this act has two major parts to it, Parts C and B. Part C goes over early intervention services, and it addresses services that can be provided to infants and toddlers with disabilities from ages birth to 3 and their families. Part B addresses the right to a free and appropriate public education. So that includes special education and related services for children who are age 3 through 21. Please excuse my children in the background if you can hear them. So who has a right to early intervention services? Eligible infants and toddlers with disabilities between the ages of birth to 3 have the right to receive early intervention supports and services. The families of these children also have the right to receive supports and services so that the parents can be empowered to assist their children in supporting their development. So early intervention is about teaming. IDEA was established in 1986, Part C in particular, and it supports a teaming concept. So parents are a part of this team. There are professionals that are going to be part of the team as well, but we're working together to identify the unique developmental needs of the child and the family. And there's going to be a plan of early intervention services to meet those needs that's going to be put in place. So in Delaware, eligible infants and toddlers with disabilities between the ages of birth to 3 are provided with opportunities to receive early intervention supports and services to address their unique developmental needs. The families of these eligible children will have opportunities as well to receive early intervention supports and services so that they can acquire abilities and advocate and provide ongoing learning opportunities for the children or child. So in Delaware, The Birth to 3 Early Intervention Program is a component of Delaware's Department of Health and Social Services. So DHSS serves as the lead agency for the program, and the lead agency means that it's the office that's responsible for the general supervision and oversight of the early intervention program in the state. So as part of a component of Birth to 3, Child Development Watch provides service coordination and early intervention services. Who's eligible? Let's talk about eligibility. There are 2 different ways to become eligible for early intervention services in Delaware. And they are by receiving a developmental delay, which is identified through an evaluation and assessment process, or by having a diagnosed physical or mental condition that has a high probability of resulting in developmental delay. Here you'll see the process, the general process of the early intervention system as a family goes through from the referral stage, through the assessment evaluation stage, eligibility, the individualized family service plan, which is developed and implemented throughout the early intervention process, and then the transition to either Part B services or exiting the early intervention system. At the time of referral, an agency or individuals within the community will refer children who they may suspect to have disabilities and need early intervention services to Child Development Watch. And at Child Development Watch, the children will be evaluated, and if they're found eligible, they will receive early intervention services. So the sources that can be responsible for referring their children or a child to Child Development Watch could be parents, it could be doctors. There are a wide variety of people who can call Child Development Watch to refer a child who has a suspected developmental delay or disability. So it's very important that when a child or an infant is identified as having a developmental delay or disability, that they are referred as quickly as possible. So if there is a primary referral source looking to make a referral, it needs to happen no more than 7 days after the date that the child was identified by the referral source. So after the referral, if CDW proposes to do an evaluation and the parent agrees to the evaluation, there's a time frame that begins, and that timeline is 45 days from the date of referral. And in those 45 days, the child and their family will complete an initial evaluation and assessment with CDW. And if the evaluation shows that the child is eligible for services, then the family, along with Child Development Watch, and again, going back to the teaming concept, there will be a group of individuals working together to develop the individualized family service plan. So let's talk about what evaluation looks like. There's going to be an evaluation tool that is used by qualified specialists who are oftentimes going to be of 2 different disciplines, we'll call them, or specialties. And they're going to gather information and evaluate your child's development in 5 different areas. These areas are cognition, which is problem-solving skills, how children and infants make sense of the world around them, communication, which includes expressing themselves, how they get their needs met through communication like speaking or verbal gestures or gestures or verbal communication, and also understanding what's being said to them. Physical development is also looked at. And with that area of development, we're looking at their large motor skills. We're looking at how they can run, jump, play with the ball, crawl, roll over, different things like that. We're also looking at their fine motor development, so that hand-eye coordination. We're also looking at how they use their hands to manipulate small objects or even large objects, depending on their age. There's also social and emotional development that's looked at, which really talks about or looks at how a child connects with their parents and other people in their communities, and how they regulate their emotions, or how they let people know that they're sad or let people know that they're happy. And finally, self-help. So this area is looking at how children can tell people or get their needs met by either communicating that or seeking help by crying or just taking care of the need themselves. There's observation that goes into the evaluation process. So the evaluators will be watching the child play in their natural environment. They'll be watching the child as they interact with others around them as well. There's parent report. So there are going to be a lot of different questions that parents are asked, and there's a conversation that's had with the parent to talk about what's going on with the child. And then there's also completing direct tasks with the child, in which the evaluator will say, they'll say something to the child, for example, to get them to complete a task, or they'll provide the child with the opportunity to complete a task directly. So in the evaluation process, the parent's role is to participate in the observations. So we encourage you to play with your child and do things that you would normally do with your child if it was just a regular day. You're encouraged to share your child's strengths and the concerns that you have for your child, and be prepared to be on the floor and playing. It's very important that the child feels natural, the child is operating at the best point of the day for them. So we want to make sure that they're as comfortable as possible and able to provide the best, be their best at their evaluation. Which leads into the next point, sharing the time of day that's best for your child. And also have a list of questions available. Now, assessment. This is a slightly different approach to gathering information about a child compared to evaluation. It's an ongoing process. So when the individualized family service plan team is looking to identify goals for the family and the child, they get different information from lots of different sources like medical records, childcare records, and family input. And all of these different elements are used together to create goals and outcomes. So let's go back to eligibility. When we're doing the evaluation process and the assessment process, and there is a 25% delay in one or more of the areas of development that we talked about a little bit earlier, then the child is eligible for early intervention services in Delaware. There is the second way that we talked about as well, established condition. And what that means is a child has a diagnosed physical or mental condition, and the condition has a high probability of resulting in a developmental delay. So even if the child is not exhibiting a developmental delay, or there's no real way to know or to see that the child is behind in their development, they would still be eligible for early intervention services in Delaware. Some of these conditions include fetal alcohol syndrome, Down syndrome, and cerebral palsy. So let's talk about an individualized family service plan, or an IFSP. This plan is a written plan or a blueprint that talks about which services are going to be provided to the family and the infant or toddler, and those services are going to address the unique needs of both the infant or toddler and their family. There are a few main components that each IFSP must have. It should have the child's current levels of development, which is based on the assessment and evaluation processes, family resources, the priorities and concerns that the family has about the child's development, as long as the parents agree to include this information, the results or goals that were discussed at the IFSP meeting, early intervention services that the family will receive, the location where these services will be delivered to families, and then the transition plan as the child approaches the age of 3. So an IFSP team is a team, as we said. This team includes the parents, the service coordinator, who is assigned to the family at Child Development Watch, and that person is responsible for making sure that the IFSP is implemented appropriately. There will be a person directly responsible for completing the evaluation and assessments, and as appropriate, individuals who will be providing early intervention services to the child or family, and any person that the family is closely related to or connected to that the family would like to participate in the IFSP. So some of the most common early intervention services include service coordination, which is where the service coordinator makes sure that services are implemented to the family training, counseling, home visits, social work services, transportation. There are a few others that you'll see here as well, and they include physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech language pathology, and so on. And all of these services are common, but they are delivered to families in ways that are most appropriate to meet the needs of the family and the children.
And so I'll talk a little bit about your role in the process, because as parents, you're members of this entire process and throughout the process, and you've been with your child. And so you've seen, you may have questions or concerns that you want to share and communicate throughout this process. So these are just some quick tips in terms of preparing for the assessment, participating in IFSP meetings, preparing for the transition process, keeping records, and communicating with your child's providers. So before the assessment, ask questions to learn about the process. What will team members be doing? How long will it take? How is information gathered and how? Why is this information needed? And how can I be involved in my child's assessment? As Christina mentioned earlier, during the evaluation process, be prepared to play. The goal is to see your child and to assess your child in their natural environment. And so the interaction with you, that natural interaction, will be very important, or individuals in your family, those that your child is used to interacting with. Also mentioned earlier, suggest a place and time that would be most optimal for your child. We may not want to plan to schedule an assessment or an evaluation during your child's regularly scheduled nap time, where they may not be as likely to interact with individuals. Make a list and be prepared to describe your child's skills, abilities, and interests, as well as challenges with the team. Explain how your child interacts with others and how they communicate, and describe any unusual behaviors you may have noticed. And remember, this is really important, because this entire process is to determine if your child needs additional services and supports. And so this is a team approach, and the intent of this approach is for you to be an active member of this process throughout the entire process. And because you are your child's first teacher and your child's best advocate, you're already seeing and have already identified some of the challenges or concerns that you may have. So it's really important throughout this process to share that and to make sure that you're keeping track of any of those concerns that you have as it relates to your child's development. I'd also add, don't underestimate anything. So if you have a concern, or if you see something, or if you feel that your child is not progressing or developing in a specific area, that's the time to ask those questions to your service provider or throughout this process. Not to dismiss it, to say, oh, well, this is, there are only 2, or they have time to grow. If you have a concern about it, use this opportunity to ask that during the assessment process. Also, participate, as we mentioned, in observations with your child. Take time to read any documentation you receive from the team, including the invitation to meeting, prior written notice, or parent guide, and write down any questions you may have or need clarification, and ask your family service provider. You can also reach out to Parent Information Center. We'll be more than happy to walk you through that process as well if you have any questions as to how to prepare for upcoming meetings. It's also a good idea to keep records in a binder or a location where all your child's medical records, including assessments, evaluations, immunizations, can be in one designated place. That way it's easy to access. You can pull that information out whenever you have questions, and it's all in one place when you're throughout this ongoing process with the team. There's also a handout that was sent to everyone, and hopefully you received it. It's also been added to the chat. And this also just talks specifically about the assessment process and how you can prepare as a parent for the assessment process. And it includes specific examples on what you can do as parents, in addition to what was shared in today's presentation. I will also note that if we have any participants that serve families that are non-English speaking families, that the resources that are shared today are also available in multiple languages. Do you have anything, Christina, that you wanted to add?
I just wanted to go over again the fact that the family is the center of the service plan. And again, as Midra said, if you have concerns, if you have questions, the family service coordinator is there to support your family, and so are your service providers. They may be what we would call experts in a certain field, but families are experts in their family and in their children. So you are just as much of a crucial role as any professional that's on your IFSP team. So I just wanted to add that in.
Absolutely. So I will, these are some additional resources. As I mentioned, you should have this access to the PowerPoint as well as the links, and the PowerPoint does have active links. So you are able to hyperlink to each of these resources. And this is the partnering with your child's assessment team. This is the handout that was provided in the chat. And so it walks through just some steps that you can take as parents in preparation for having that meeting or sharing the assessment with, or sharing your concerns with the team. I will also add that, and it was mentioned earlier in the presentation, that through the referral process, there are a number of ways that your child can be referred to Child Development Watch, and that includes you as a parent. And so if you share those concerns with your child's pediatrician or with another service provider, they may refer your child, send a referral to CDW, but you can also contact CDW yourself if you have questions and you would like to start that, that process. Is there anything else, Christina, that you would add as it relates to that process? I just thought it was important for families to know that while there are a number of ways that their child can be referred, that they also can self-refer.
Yeah, that's very important. You don't have to wait for your family care physician to refer, or even if they say, you know, wait and see, you still have a right to refer your child.
Absolutely. And so I will take this time to see if there are any questions in the chat. I don't see anything yet, but I just wanted to, Christina, thank you for taking the time. The intent of this presentation was really just to give you an overview of the early intervention process. And so what it is, how to access, also to introduce you to our new Part C coordinator, which we're so excited to have here with us and presenting with us today, because it's really important. Again, I cannot emphasize this enough for you as parents to know that you are a significant role in this process and you are a significant part of this process. While there are experts in a specific discipline, you are the expert on your child. And so you know your child, you know how their progress. And so it's not, the intent of this was to be a short presentation because it's really just an overview. Following will be a number of presentations where we'll take a deeper dive into each specific process. So we'll talk about the components of the IFSP and how you can prepare for that meeting and working with the team. We'll talk about preparing for transitioning from Part C services to Part B services and your role in that process. And so be on the lookout for a number of additional follow-up presentations where we'll take a deeper dive in this process. But again, the intent was just to become familiar with Delaware's early intervention system, become familiar with the process and how you can prepare, but also to let you know that there are resources that are available to you if you have questions or concerns. Again, you can always reach out to us at PIC at 302-999-7394. And I probably should have included the contact information for Child Development Watch. So we'll make sure that you get that information as well. So you can, if you have questions or again, want to start the referral process or have questions about the referral process, you can reach out to them directly as well. Did you want to add anything else, Christina?
I just wanted to thank you again, Major, for having me. I appreciate being in this new role. I have experience as a family service coordinator, so I've been through the early intervention process with many different families. And, you know, it can be a scary time. It can be a lot of uncertainty that's around. But the goal of early intervention services is to support their family and to empower them, to make them feel, you know, as much as possible, make them feel comfortable in taking those next steps with their children. So this is a supportive environment. Again, families are experts on their children and their families. They're important. So I just want to make sure that that's emphasized, and I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And thank you again for emphasizing that and the significance of the parent's role. It is a very, I went through the process personally. And so I can say just from a parent perspective that, there's a process, and everyone's situation and circumstance is different, but coming to terms with identifying that your child may have a delay or may need additional support sometimes is a process for families. And so it's really important to know that you have that supportive network and supportive system outside of your personal support network, that there are individuals that are available here. And for me personally, going through that process, it was really helpful to be able to talk to the team and to get the questions that I had answered, and also to even access the website and to look at the resources on the website. There's a great resource on the website that covers developmental milestones. And it's not an intent to diagnose your child or to say this is where your child is, but it's just to kind of give you an idea of where your child, what some of the things that you should be observing or should be seeing with your child. And again, it's not a clinical diagnosis, it's just a guide. And so that in addition to a number of other resources are available to you. And we strongly encourage you to access those resources or to reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Again, at the conclusion of this webinar, you'll receive a link to a survey. Please take a few moments to complete that because it's really important for us in terms of getting your feedback and knowing if this information is helpful, it's useful. If there are additional topics or information that you would like to hear from us, we want to make sure that we get that feedback and we can include that as well. As always, if you want to learn more about PIC's services and programs, please visit our website at www.picofdel.org. You can also follow us on our social media pages, our Facebook page, which is Parent Information Center of Delaware, Instagram, which is PIC of DE, and Twitter, which is PIC of Del. You can always sign up for our weekly newsletter and events. In fact, we have a early childhood newsletter that goes out monthly. And if you go to our homepage, you have the opportunity to sign up for our general e-news, as well as our other newsletters that we have available to you as well. Thank you once again for your time. And let me just double check to make sure that there are no other questions. There are not. So thank you, Christina, again, and thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.